Hey everybody, this week's tutorial is going to be the first of a few-part series talking about the basics of mastering. So in brief, mastering is the final touches put on a finished mix to transform it into something that sounds polished, translates into a bunch of different sound systems, and in most cases making it louder to level match the volume of other professional mixes and masters in that style. So although I first off recommend that people save up some money and send it to someone that's a professional and that's done this and has experience, it is a fact that there are people that do not have a budget like that and they want to be able to achieve those professional results in their own home. So mastering can get rather complicated pretty quickly, so I figured I would just keep it simple and discuss 3 important parts of a mastering chain. The 3 I will discuss are bus compression, equalization, and limiting. So this first video will be touching on limiting. So what limiting is, in a nutshell, is something that prevents the audio from passing a certain level in volume. So in this case, on a master chain, it'll be the digital ceiling, which is 0 dB. Because, first of all, if the audio does pass that, it'll create distortion, artifacts, basically a lot of unpleasant sounds. So not only does it serve that purpose, but we want to push the level or overall volume of the mix against that ceiling as loud as we can without sacrificing the clarity and sense of dynamics of the mix. So a real challenge with the rock and metal genre, for instance, is being able to have things feel like they're punchy and yet be really energetic and loud at the same time and aggressive. And the dangers of limiting, especially when you do it on your own, is that you can get too caught up in how loud you can make it, and in turn that will quickly destroy any sense of life that's coming from the transients and the dynamics, like from your drums. What I've heard, all the mid-range activity will envelop the drums and create this mid-range sort of blob, and the drums will sound buried and weak, and nobody wants that. So it is important that you pay attention to how loud you're making it and how loud a song is worth making, because you want to maintain that clarity. But also it's good to invest in a limiter that can really handle the things like retaining clarity and retaining transient detail as you make it louder and louder. So 2 limiters I highly recommend that can do that well are the FabFilter Pro L, which I have right here actually, and then another one is the Slate FGX. Those both give you great results. So here I have a 2 mix of one of my instrumental tunes, and as you can see in the waveform, the transients are a lot louder than the other activity in the mix. And that's because I like to prepare the mixes in such a way that if the punchy aspect of the drums are substantially louder, then as you increase the volume, the limiters will start to be chopping off only the pokey, harsh aspects of those transients, as opposed to if you had the drums be a lot quieter and almost, in a way, level match the other instruments. As soon as you start making it louder, very quickly you'll start to hear the mid-range instruments start to cover up the drums, and the drums will lose their punchiness almost immediately. So let me go ahead and show you what I mean. I'll play the mix without the limiter. So the drums do sound pretty loud, but I do that because I know in the back of my mind, when I start to limit these things, the limiter is going to attack the really top transients as it starts to raise up the other instruments, the guitars, the bass, and even the roomy breath of the drums. So when I apply this limiter, you'll hear what I'm talking about. So I was able to raise that mix up 5 decibels, and as you can see in the metering of the limiter, it was chopping off something to be able to achieve that. And what it was chopping off was the really harsh top aspects of the transients. so you could still hear this sense of punchiness, even though I was raising the mix and starting to squash everything. So that's basically it. Next week, I'm going to be discussing the EQ and compression side of things, and then some future videos will include vocal processing and amp sims, getting good mixes with those. So I appreciate you guys watching, and if you guys want me to shed light on any other topics, please let me know.